from Greater Sandton and beyond. Get ready for the SANDTON Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
That's it. It's the SANDTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 FM and is always available as a podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify. I'm Alexander Leitner. This is edition 104. It's week 9 of 2023, and it's almost March. It's the last bit of February that we're pulling together to make it all happen. If you want to get in touch, you can email editor@sandtontimes.co.za. We can connect with us on social media @SANDTON Times or visit the website www.sandtontimes.co.za. And you should do it this week. I think there's still that really delicious competition that's running till Wednesday. So go check that out. You can send us your questions, your comments, your thoughts, your feedback, your input. All is welcome. You're part of the conversation and you're part of the SANDTON Times Hour Nation. And if you're listening from across Gauteng, South Africa, or wherever you are in the universe, both on radio and as a podcast community, I can report that all is well in Sandton land. And Vincenzo, can you believe it? This week we cracked a top 40 list of podcasts in South Africa, which I'm really, really chuffed about. Number 15. We're in at number 15. And thanks to you. Thanks to everyone listening. All of those who support us on Mix and on the digital world. Thank you so much for making this your regular listen. If you're listening to this live on Mix 93.8, well, you can use the WhatsApp line. It's open, 084-822-0938, 084-822-0938. It's always good to hear from you and send through your WhatsApp and your comments, both good and bad. We're not favoring one or the other. Some of them are quite amusing and entertaining to read. And it's always interesting to see how people make an effort to type out sometimes very wordy WhatsApps. So send those through. Even people sending pictures of all kinds of things, slip-slops, and amazing. So please do that. It's my birthday week. Can you believe it? Last week I was 39. This week it's the big 40. And thank you to all of those who sent through well wishes and happy returns. It's hugely appreciated. And didn't get a chance to put together a big celebration or anything too swanky or fancy or elaborate. I know you're very surprised, but we'll do something later on in the year. A myriad of, limitations at the moment to try and make that all happen. Studies and commitments and blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, you know what? Let's not try and crowbar this into a particular date. We're going to still do something. It'd be great to have you be part of that celebration as well later on in the year. So stay tuned. Well, another week of stage 6 load shedding. Talk about blowing out the candles. I must tell you, like when you've got candles on a birthday cake, you're thinking, maybe I should just leave these on because I might need them in 20 minutes because the power's going off. And, I find some slots are more manageable than others. I don't know. I'd love to hear from you if you got some thoughts on this. Send me a message. Send me a WhatsApp. This week's been interesting. I headed out to mark Margarita Day. There was Margarita Day this week. And Patron, they hosted a masterclass with a seasoned bartender at Mama Samba in Rosebank. Very nice eatery that. We learned how to make cocktails, Vincenzo. They taught us how to make margaritas with a bit of a twist. It's actually quite nice. Margaritas are quite nice. I mean, it's basically tequila, a bit of lime juice, fresh lime juice. They emphasize the fact you must use fresh lime juice. And then it's got that sort of salt, sugar, cinnamon rim that you can kind of mix up as you want. And then there's a bit of a syrup kind of thing that they mix into it as well. Very pleasant. I think it's one of the nicer cocktails that you can have. And then, then there was also Simba Knickknacks and Doritos. They've launched a new flavor. So they've dragged us all to Houghton, to a mansion in Houghton. Can you believe it? On the ridge there. Amazing. And they launched a range of flaming hot chips. Flaming hot. And if you like hot things, let me give you a quick ranking because we actually tasted these and we ranked them. So the Knickknacks come in probably as the mildest. So if you like things a little bit spicier, maybe not the Knickknacks. But if you're not into hot food, the Knickknacks are very manageable. The Doritos are slightly hotter. So they're like a bit of a medium, but still also very, very pleasant, very manageable. But the hottest of them all is probably the Simba variant. The Simba variant, there were a couple of people who said, I'm out. It was just too hot for them. So I quite enjoyed those. It's got you get that sort of that pleasant spice. There's an unpleasant spice where, you have tears and you feel like you're eating pepper spray. This isn't it. This is very, very nice. I quite enjoyed that, and it was quite a fun one out. But talking about hot, do I have a hot hour lined up for you? How's that for a transition? Coming up this week's show, from politics to gin distilling. If you enjoy gin, you've probably come across this South African flagship brand that has now gone global, and I'm going to chat to the female founder that is now investing back into young entrepreneurs. Then this property has been in Sandton for a very long time, but over the past 10 years, it's been part of Sun International and marks a major anniversary this year. I'll be chatting to the general manager, and we're going to be taking a walk down memory lane. Then next, she's a South African soprano from Piet Retief, who will soon be performing at King Charles III's coronation. And I'm going to be chatting to her for a behind-the-scenes look at that performance, so stay tuned. And finally, a Japanese multinational has opened its new South African head office right here in Sandton, and I'll find out a bit more about this move and what it means to them. All this and more is coming up next in this hour. As always, we'll do the headlines in a minute. But Vincenzo, I know you've got some celebratory sounds lined up for us, so let's get the week started.
Show some love.
Subscribe, share
Leave a review and rating for the SANTON Times Hour
on your favorite podcast app now.
Follow the SANTON Times on social media.
At SANTON Times.
This is the SANTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 with One More Time by Daft Punk, taking us into the hour. And as always, it's our headlines for this week. Well, the cost of load shedding in South Africa is absolutely staggering. I don't know about you, but I think everyone who's got any extra cash right now is trying to find a solution to curb the load shedding. It's just gotten to that point where you just can't actually carry on without having some sort of battery or gas or heaven knows what, coal oven. I don't know what people are coming up with at this point. But my broadband reports that businesses are reducing staff in some instances to the bare essentials, the minimals, to try and survive the harsh economic conditions in this country. And according to this piece by My Broadband, Telkom, for example, they've spent 150 million rand in a single quarter to fight the effects of ongoing load shedding. Then Pick n Pay as well is spending 60 million each month running diesel generators to keep its lights on. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've also noticed across the supermarket chains, there's certain things that are starting to struggle a bit with expiry dates. I don't know about you, but I've noticed things in my fridge that were supposed to expire at a much later point, now expiring much sooner. I don't know if it's got something to do with the cold chain. Maybe there's somebody who works in the cold chain industry or business who can maybe explain this, how this is affecting, that entire economic value chain. Because surely at some point, with all this load shedding happening, there must be interruptions in the cold chain and things sort of semi-defrosting, and then once they get into the fridge, they're not as cold as they probably should be. And I know there's legislation and minimum times, and I know we've discussed this on the show as well. So maybe somebody can explain that to me. Then, Vodacom and MTN, they've spent billions of rands on backup power solutions for their infrastructure. And then a News24 article was quoting the Emira Property Fund, who spent 16.6 million on diesel between July and December 2022. I mean, this additional costs are just unbelievable. And I mean, someone's got to pay for it. And I've also noticed some of the prices in some of the stores have gone up significantly. And it must be because of trying to recover some of these costs. I mean, they just don't just go into thin air. Well, we spoke about this last week with Davy Root, and regrettably, it didn't come through as hoped. ENCA reports that South Africa has been added to the Financial Action Task Force's list of grey-listed countries. This means the country is on the list of nations that have failed to adequately put in place measures to tackle illicit financial outflows. Well, listen, we've failed to adequately put measures in place to tackle illicit financial outflows, inflows, cross flows, up and down flows. I mean, it's just flowing all over the place here. This comes with a list of additional pressures and challenges facing an already mismanaged economy. And like somebody said to me the other day, ons moet nou vasbyt. Vasbyt is that phrase that just seems to ring true in South Africa. Hey, Vincenzo? Oh my gosh. All right. And then something a little bit happier here. And this is our last one. Business Tech. They did quite a nice story on the tallest residential and commercial buildings in South Africa, two of which are located in Sandton. And here's the list. So at number 10, we've got the Michelangelo Towers, which has been around for a bit, 140 meters in Sandton. Then we've got the Kwadukuzo Igoli Hotel Tower 1 in Johannesburg at 140 meters. 88 on Field in Durban at 146.5 meters. The Reserve Bank building in Pretoria, which I've actually been to, 148 meters. The Radio Park building Johannesburg at 150.9 meters. Then this new building, Pearl Dawn in Durban, 152 meters. Marble Towers, Johannesburg, 152.1 meters. That's in the inner city. Then the Ponte Tower in Johannesburg, 172.8 meters. Then the Carlton Centre in Johannesburg, 201.2 meters. And at number 1, the Leonardo, 227.9 meters, according to this article. Those are the top 10 buildings, commercial and residential, in South Africa. Well, let's leave the headlines right there for this week. After those headlines, I think I need a stiff gin and tonic, Vincenzo. But more on that. I'm joined by founder of Inverroche Gin, Lorna Scott, right after the break.
You're listening to the SANTON Times Hour.
It's a good question because lots of people have asked us that, what are you going to do going forward?
That's a great question.
Two critically important questions.
Such a great and interesting question.
I have not even thought about that until you've just said it.
You're listening to the SANTON Times Hour.
This is the SANTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 and also available on all good podcast platforms wherever you are in the world for you to listen whenever you want to, wherever you want to. I'm kicking off this week's show with a great interview. Really looking forward to this one because I'm just such a personal fan of this particular spirit. It is gin, and South Africa has become such a world leader, I think, in craft gins, in bringing out the most marvelous gins with the most marvelous infusions and combinations and very local South African twists to gin. And I think the last time I checked, there was something like 350 plus gins. There's probably even more now. But one of them really stood out and almost felt like it kind of was at the beginning of this wave that we saw happen over the last couple of years, and it's Inverroche, and it's got such an incredible story behind it. And I'm thrilled to be joined by the founder of Inverroche Gin, Lorna Scott. And Lorna, thank you so much for joining us on the SANTON Times Hour.
Thank you very much for talking to me.
It's amazing, Lorna. It's an absolute pleasure. And let's start this off with how you got and came up with Inverroche Gin. I mean, it is just such an iconic brand now, but it wasn't even around a couple of years ago. I mean, this has literally been a story of what? Under a decade, you've come up with such an incredible gin?
I sold my first bottle out of the garage on the 16th of December in 2011. But it took about 3 years prior to that for me to develop the product. But I mean, to answer your question as to, what was the inspiration behind it, is I never actually set out to make gin. The whole idea came about while I was still in politics, and I realized that I was sitting on this extraordinary story that I needed to share with the world, which is about a place, the southern tip of Africa, and where we are in Still Bay, being right in the middle of the world's most astonishing, smallest, and most abundant floral biome, which we know as fynbos, has this connection to the origin story of modern humans. And this extraordinary connection between a place, nature, and, the evolution of us becoming modern, that literally links every single human alive on the planet today to a place, was a story that I felt I needed to tell. And the long and the short of all of this is that I had an insight, I really had an epiphany that story, if I could somehow find a way to, infuse a luxury product, and that's why I started with the idea of perfume initially and then ended up with gin. Needless to say, I like gin, so maybe that had something to do with it. But the whole point of this was that I come from a marketing background and also out of the political arena. But I understood the value of luxury products that can sit on a shelf and talk about, where they come from. If you think how you associate champagne with, French sophistication and whiskey with, the wonderful rich history of the Scottish nation. I wanted to create something that could speak about who we are today as South Africans, but also about that connection to the past. And so that was where the journey started, and I ended up with Inverroche.
Unbelievable. Now, take us through this evolution now. You went from selling one bottle out of your garage, I'm assuming this was a real DIY process that you went through, to where are you now? How has that business evolved to where we are now in 2023?
You were quite right about, we led the way. We were the first to make gin in South Africa, other than the big brands like Gordon's Gin and so on that were made under contract. So we're the first craft gin to infuse our spirit with indigenous flora that had never been used before. And it literally did open an entire, the floodgates to create not only a new category of spirit, but it opened up the craft spirit industry in its entirety. So, I'm always really chuffed that people talk about that there's so many copycats, but in essence, it's a really good thing, because when you give people choice, then they end up being more invested in buying something, and then by default, the good ones, stay the way. So we opened 2011. And by now, they're probably in excess of about 500 local gins. But we were clearly on a trajectory that interested the big players. And so 3 years ago, 2019, just before COVID, I was approached by, all of the big boys, and I ended up agreeing to a partnership with Pernod Ricard. And so Pernod Ricard, being the second largest in the world in spirit business, is now a majority partner in Inverroche, and they have been amazing to help me access global markets. So since 2011, we are now in 30 different countries, and we are the market leader in the super premium category in South Africa.
Well, Lorna, congratulations. I mean, what an absolute story of success. And I mean, it's something that we are so used to hearing in bigger markets like the United States. It's sort of that story where someone started a business in their garage and they sold it and they're now listed on the New York Stock Exchange. It's not as often that we get to hear a story like this in South Africa, and it's just incredible to hear that we are doing so well in the gin category right now, and that you've sort of leading the way. I mean, it really is fantastic. But you're also now investing back into entrepreneurs, back into female leadership. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, the whole principle of Inverroche really, I designed it from the word go to be not only sustainable, but to be based on the concept of circular making. And when you talk about circular making, it does not just refer to, the environmental impact. And we will be carbon neutral by 2025. So we're well on the way, leading that not just in South Africa, but also within the Pernod Ricard group. But part of the circular making thinking really is that at the fulcrum of all of this lies the element of humans. So I talk about connecting people to plants, and ultimately it's the planet. But profit is what drives this whole engine. And so this connection between not only my own staff, but the broader community, I think lies at the heart of what businesses should be going into the future. And so our business model literally means that I approach every single activity that we do to involve the broader community as far as possible. So downstream, upstream, supply chain. And I'll give you a couple of examples, then it makes much more sense. For example, our more than 70% of my staff are all female from the local community. It's obviously a female-led organization, so there's a very strong female focus. But from an entrepreneurial point of view, by virtue of the fact that there's so many opportunities when you open your eyes and be a bit more creative about how you can use what you already do for the broader, greater good, you come up with some really great ideas. And all our waste, for example, we repurpose in some way. For example, once we've made gin, what is left behind in the pot store, also called vinasse, or, instead of just, putting that into the landfill or, being put into the municipal system, we now donate that to a small business just outside Stilbaai who make bricks and paving and pavers. So instead of water, which is a very rare resource in this region, they now use the leftover gin. So we have all these houses and and pavements and so on being made from gin, which is really cool. People talk about it. It's a thing. I have a house, a wall built with gin. But then in terms of the entrepreneurial support, we also take our botanical waste that has turned into a compost business. So we donate that. But then we're in the process of setting up a broader equity project whereby our own staff will all become shareholders in a little project which will repurpose our citrus waste. We use only fresh citrus, tons of it every day, but the fruit therefore becomes a waste product. So although we already donate this to old age homes and also small businesses that turn that into orange juice, we're now in the process of putting together the project whereby our own staff will be shareholders and we'll set up a little business to add value to the citrus fruit, whether it will be ice lollies or, frozen orange juice and so on. So that's the kind of thinking that we employ with everything that we do. And I think that's the kind of, way that you expand it beyond your own business and your own profit, but include the broader community.
Well, what an inspiring story there. Lorna Scott, founder of Inverroche Gin, taking us through a taste of her story and also now the plans going forward, which sounds very exciting. And it also just seems like it's the beginning, even though it's been going for quite some time. And Lorna Scott, I thank you for joining us on the SANTON Times Hour.
Thank you very much for having us.
Well, it's the bottom of the hour, and we're going to take a quick break, and there'll be more of the SANTON Times Hour right after this musical break. Stay tuned.
Back for more?
The SANTON Times Hour continues.
You're listening to the SANTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 with Avicii and Without You featuring Sandro Cavazza. Taking you into the second half of the SANTON Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leipner, and if you're a regular, well, you know what happens next. And if you're not, well, if there's anything that sounded good on the show during this last hour and you really thought, wow, I didn't get the details, I didn't find out where was that or what time was it or when do I get to go there, go onto the website www.santontimes.co.za, check out the show notes, and we'll put everything up on there. So you don't have to stress about writing it on your collar or on your arm. You can check it out there after the show, or even if you feel like we're looking during the show, and get all the information right there. Also, you can check out the social media accounts at SANTON Times, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, whatever you're on. We're on all the platforms, and you can send through a DM, a voice note, or anything else that works for you. And also don't forget to use the hashtag SANTON Times Hour. Now, one of the hotels that's also marking a milestone in the Sandton area is the Maslow Hotel. And you know where it is, corner Grayston and Rivonia Road. And this building has had a very interesting history. But here to talk to me about this anniversary and this milestone for Sun International's Herman Swart. He's the general manager of the Maslow Hotel in Sandton. And Herman, let me kick this off by wishing you congratulations.
Alex, thank you. Yeah, it's exciting times for us, especially in this wake of what was a big disruptor for us. So yeah, we're very excited about this birthday.
Yeah, you had a bit of a speed wobble towards the end of it, but you pushed through, and here you are, 10 years down the line.
Unfortunately, I wasn't involved in the property right from day one, but I visited the property when we opened it 10 years ago, and it was always one of my favorites in Sun International. We've got fantastic properties, but there was something different and something unique about the Maslow that I really enjoyed as a visitor. So I was looking forward to coming here, initially a couple of months just to do some work here. And now 4 years down the line, I'm very proud to be a part of this product.
Well, I'm going to dig a little bit deep and try and go back into the cobwebs of my memory in terms of the building. I think right in the beginning, it was either a Crown Plaza or it was a garden court. I know there's probably people listening right now who said, no, I had my matriek afskei there, or I had my first dinner there, or something like that. Yeah. You then took over the building 10 years ago. As Sun International, and I think it was quite a critical piece of the puzzle for Sun International because you didn't really have a property in this area that kind of connected the dots between Cape Town, Sun City, and some of the other prime spaces that you've got in South Africa.
Yeah, 100%. Also, with our head office being here, and from a corporate perspective, it was important that we had a footprint in the Sandton node, and it was the proximity to the airport, and then sort of a central point, as you rightfully say, Alex, to all of our other properties. It could, the intention was, amongst others, to use it as a sort of a funnel to get our clients to some of the other exciting products that we had at that time.
Well, listen, last time we spoke, this was, I think, just coming out of COVID. We were talking about how you were trying to also position the hotel as a bit of a resort kind of destination within Sandton. I know you've got the spa, you've got some fantastic dining facilities, and then also you've got something which is a bit of a luxury, I think, in most places, is that you've got this lavish garden with the swimming pool. So when you actually sit out on the Maslow lawn, you actually sometimes don't even feel like you're really in the city. You're kind of in a bit of a park sort of area. How has business improved in Sandton, now being positioned in Africa's richest square mile? Are you seeing things picking up again? Are we getting back to where we were when we left off before COVID?
Yeah, Alex, the interesting, that the channels have changed, and the segments have changed in terms of their unique behavior. We could not, for the life of us, think that conferencing was going to come back. Because nobody was coming back to the office. Everybody was working from home, and people became used to doing this kind of thing. The next moment, all our conference venues are just chock and block. We are booked out well in advance, and people actually walk in here and are angry because they can't find a space, and they demand, they say, listen, I'm not leaving before I can get myself a space for my meeting next week. We say, listen, what planet are you from? Well, we don't say that, they're clients, but that's what we think, certainly, because, you need to make provision for that. But the interesting thing is that the guys don't stay over. So it's day conferencing, which has come back aggressively. Local leisure, funny enough, has picked up nicely over weekends, which I find very odd. I can't understand why somebody who lives in Joburg would want to come and stay at this hotel for a weekend, but that's something that is doing really well. And then slowly but surely, our corporate business is coming back, although the international corporate is slow. But local corporate, we've got some really good loyal clients that are coming back, and then the airlines, which is, for me, indicative of where we're going from an international sort of visitation perspective. We've got Qantas in-house, fantastic airlines to have, fantastic people. The staff love them. They love the interaction with the Aussies with respect. Well, look, I've got a son-in-law that's an Australian, so I've got a right to an opinion. And we just busy with a big deal, with a multi-million rand deal with another the big airline. And if we can secure that, again, it just helps to establish Sandton front of mind with all of those individuals going back home and telling people about, the stay and the shuttle to the Sandton city and the shopping and that kind of stuff. So I think it's good, man.
Congratulations on 10 years. Many happy bed nights ahead. And here's to the next 10. He's the general manager at the Maslow Hotel. And we can't wait to visit you again. And if you haven't been to the Maslow Hotel in Sandton, make a plan, like Herman says. I mean, there's weekends and there's also weekdays that you can go check it out and mark that special occasion. They also do a great high tea, by the way. So if you haven't done that, go check out the high tea as well. Herman Swart, it's been great having you on.
Thank you, Alex. Have a good one.
From Greater Sandton to the rest of the world, this is the Sandton Times Hour.
Well, a bit of a change of pace and some exciting news. We've got some incredible artists, some incredible talent coming out of South Africa, which is one of those shining lights that we send into the world. And one of those is Pretty Yende. She was born in a small town in Piet Retief in South Africa, and she's a soprano who has performed on some of the most incredible stages around the world, and she's really moved into unparalleled levels when it comes to opera. And she joins me now from Switzerland to chat about her career and some other exciting news. And Pretty, thank you so much for making the time to be on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pretty, tell me a little bit more. How did you discover your talent to become an opera singer, having been born in Piet Retief, which is probably not very known for its opera houses?
Well, destiny, I guess. It was 2001. I was 16 at home one fine evening watching TV, and there was this British Airways ad of the Lacrima duet playing on the background. And that was the first time I got introduced to this incredible supernatural world of music. At the time I was 16, and hearing it, for me, it sounded supernatural. So I didn't know that it was actually humanly possible until a high school teacher of mine at the time told me that it's called opera and human beings can do it. And so I demanded him to teach me. And that's where the Pretty Journey hashtag started.
That is amazing, Pretty. And for those people who can't recognize it, it is that incredible tune in the British Airways ads that goes da 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 da. Have I got that right?
Yes.
That is my very amateur opera interpretation of an incredible tune.
Beautiful voice. Beautiful voice.
Pretty, I'll take it. I'll take it. Tell me, what have been some of your career highlights since then? I mean, at 16, it kicked off, you got into opera, and since then it's just been almost like a fairy tale.
Indeed. Of course, then I enrolled at the University of Cape Town at the South African College of Music. I did my studies there. And while I was there, I was still curious if indeed I did belong into this world of opera. Seeing that when I got to the University of Cape Town, everybody was just amazing, more than I can ever imagine. I just felt I did not have what they had. Luckily, my voice teacher at the time, Virginia Davids, taught me to love my own box of treasures that I have just found out, about my gift. And I looked around and I said, well, if I want to prove myself, I need to go overseas and be with the people who have known about this ever since they could utter a sound. And so I decided to enter international competitions. And so the very first international competition that I entered was the Hans Gabor competition in Vienna that allowed me to win any prize possible in the history of that that competition. And one of the prizes was an invitation to La Scala in Milano in Italy. And that's how really there was a big boost into, getting me overseas. And of course, the beginning of the career started when I jumped in at short notice at the Metropolitan Opera House in New York in 2013. And, the rest is history, basically. So it has been one highlight after another. So I've been grateful for that.
Was it quite challenging as a journey? Because, I mean, most opera is sung in, correct me if I'm wrong, in German or Italian.
Everything is a challenge, but the passion that's inside makes it worthwhile. Yes, of course, at the time I wasn't even speaking Italian or French, but then when I got to Italy, I got fluent in Italian and French because I sing mostly in Italian and French.
Yeah.
Now and again, I do get to sing in German, but those are the two languages that I enjoy the most, and the base of my career is actually based on as far as repertoire is concerned.
Amazing. Well, and such expressive languages as well. I also have a soft spot for French and Italian. But now you're going to be performing at King Charles III's coronation. And that's some of the big news that's come out of late. And I mean, that is quite an opportunity. How did that come about?
Absolutely. I felt absolutely pleasantly surprised when I found out from my manager about the invitation by the king. I was in Vienna performing one of my favorite opera roles in Donizetti's La Fille du Régiment as the leading Lady Marie. I was so happy to accept the invitation, of course, also remembering how great it was to be at Windsor Castle performing for His Majesty a few months ago last year with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. And so at the time I was in London performing Violetta at the Royal Opera House. So I'm very, very excited that first encounter with the king has, given birth to this amazing opportunity to be part of history for the British monarch, but also for centuries and generations to come. My name, when the coronation is mentioned for generations to come, the girl from Piet Retief's name will be there as one of the people who actually performed at this historical occasion.
And the fact that a British Airways ad was the inspiration for it all right in the beginning is also just full circle, which is just incredible.
Absolutely.
So how does this work? Do you get to choose what you're going to perform, or do they kind of give you a direction as to which part of the proceedings you're going to be fitting into?
Well, of course, I'm given the liberty to propose a few pieces, and together we then come up with an agreement on what would work well, considering all the possibilities of such an occasion because it's very specific, of course, historically, and so everything has to be really well thought of. But I'm very grateful that I have been given the opportunity to also pour my heart as far as what I would like to gift this occasion with my repertoire. And of course, once the palace is ready to spill all the wonderful beans, you'll all be able to know exactly what's on the menu.
Well, I think you're going to make us all proud, and it's fantastic to have a slice of South Africa as part of this moment and the celebration. And Pretty Yende, soprano from Piet Retief, now gracing the world's greatest opera stages. I thank you for making the time to be on the SANDTON Times Hour.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Tremendous. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back with more after this.
The best of talk and music in 1 hour. This is the SANDTON Times Hour.
It's the SANDTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8, and that was Wicked Games featuring Anna Naklab by Para for Kuva. Who comes up with these names? But it's a great track, so we just play it. That's how it works. Coming into the final minutes of the SANDTON Times Hour for this week. And this past week, I went to a really nice launch here in Sandton. You might know the name FUJIFILM. You might know them for a range of things, mostly for your photography work, but they do a whole range of other things. Well, FUJIFILM South Africa, they've opened a brand new head office in South Africa, and it's sitting here in Sandton. I'm really proud of that, and I think that's really great. And joining me to chat about that is Wessel Visser. He's the director of corporate at FUJIFILM South Africa. And Wessel, listen, congrats on this new building. I mean, you're marking 10 years in South Africa, and here you celebrate this occasion with a whole new home.
That's right, yes. And I think initially when we started the planning, it wasn't the intention to coincide the two events, but I think it's very fortuitous because it just shows our commitment not only to South Africa, but also to Johannesburg and Sandton. I think this is the place that business happens in South Africa. Most of our big customers and clients have got their offices in Sandton. So for us, it's, I can say, a no-brainer. We have to be here.
Well, you had a really great ceremony. I mean, Japanese company by heritage. You've been around for many, many years. You had the Japanese ambassador there. You had some dignitaries here from the Middle East, Europe. You had your local senior management there. And I think you had a ribbon cutting as well, which was really lovely. What is the reason for building a brand new building? Was there sort of a main drive developing this new house?
Yes, I think all businesses in South Africa were affected by COVID. So that changed many of our business operations and the way we do business. And we just thought that to use COVID as this catalyst to make changes to our business, because we were working in a different style, people were working from home. We needed the facility where we could interact more effectively with our customers. And we thought, okay, let's scale down the office side of the business. Let's invest in customer-facing facilities. And we went, I think, all out. We really went high-tech in putting this building together with our partners and the conferencing facilities. We can now reach customers up in Africa through video conferencing facilities that are quite sophisticated, I would say. It's just something that we wanted to do so that we don't spend the money on empty desks, but rather spend the money on getting facilities together where our customers can come in, experience the product, and we can use our products on site to train our customers and their customers.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've done just that. I mean, to break it down for everybody, so you've created these showrooms showcasing your technology. Let's kick off with, I think there's three main ones. There's the medical, there's the printing, and then there's the photography and all the related elements that come with that. Let's start off with that, because I think a lot of people know Fujifilm for the photography element. At one point, I think a lot of people said, why are we wasting time with photography? I thought print is dead. We've all got smartphones. We've all got images that we're WhatsApping each other. Is there still a business in it? And there seems like there is.
Of course, yes. Looking at Fujifilm 2012, I think everybody realized that it's the end of photography with the advent of the smartphone. Since then, Fujifilm sales just in our photography business units have grown 37%.
Sure.
It's not the end. We changed our product portfolio. We're now looking at more high-end cameras for the dedicated hobbyist and the professional photographer, and we've got a wide range of products there. Fuji invests about 8 million US dollars a day in R&D, not only in photography, but in our medical and graphics businesses as well. So it is something that we do see a future for. And we're very excited to be able to show these products at our Wonder Photo shop here in Sandton.
But correct me if I'm wrong. I think one of the big drivers of that was that Instax product that you brought out, and a lot of people might know it. It's very colourful, sort of small cameras where the picture would come out immediately, and then you had to sort of shake it and do all kinds of things. You've obviously evolved that product quite a bit now. That must be a massive contributor to some of that success.
It definitely has. Looking at the numbers, our Instax sales are exceeding the traditional color paper sales. So the old photography printing. So Instax is very big for us, and we're very happy for that, because I think it's a lifestyle product. It's kids love it, allows them to be creative, to expand their thinking, and to create. It's a beautiful product for us.
Well, Wessel Visser, Director of Corporate at FUJIFILM South Africa, now finding their home in Sandton. Welcome to Sandton, and congrats on your new building, and just giving us a taste there of some of the stuff that's housed under this roof that is now in the heart of Sandton and doing business here. And I thank you for making the time to be on the SANDTON Times Hour and for sharing that with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting us.
And that's it for another SANDTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8, and also available on podcasts on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Marking another milestone week for myself, turning 40 and starting a whole new decade. If you want to get in touch, you can email editor@sandtontimes.co.za or visit the website www.sandtontimes.co.za. And don't forget, you can also connect with us on social media at SANDTON Times. And feel free to send through your comments, your ideas, your story ideas, your feedback. All of that is welcome. Thank you to all my guests who made time to be on the show this week. And also Vincenzo, as always, thank you so much. And thank you for all the little birthday spoils that you brought along. It just makes it so much more festive and so much more fun. And hopefully we'll get to have a proper celebration a little bit later on this year. And make some time for that. And thank you to the SANDTON Times team, as well as everyone at Mix 93.8. And thank you to you for listening every single week. And let's connect again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the SANDTON Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.